The man at customer service returns women instead of items. Big box store. Bright lights. The air always smelled like plastic and floor cleaner. I worked the returns desk, 8-hour shifts that felt like standing in a microwave. People dumped busted vacuums on my counter, screamed about policies I didn't write, tried to bully me into breaking rules I get fired for. I learned to keep my face blank and my voice even, because the minute you show anything, they grab it and twist. He started showing up once a week. No cart, no bags, no kid dragging behind him. One small thing in his hand, socks, a candle, cheap headphones. Always the same reasons. Wrong size, wrong smell, wrong fit. He'd say it like he was reading from a card. At first, he flirted the way a lot of guys do at customer service, like they think the counter is a dating app. Asked my name, asked about my piercings, asked if I was always on nights. I answered short. I didn't smile back. I wanted him processed and gone. But he only came in my lane. I watched him pass 2 empty counters to stand in front of me. If I stepped away to grab receipt paper, he waited. If a coworker called, "I can take you over here," he pretended not to hear. He'd just stare at me until I came back, like I owed him the transaction. Then he started talking like he had a calendar in his head with my name on it. "You weren't here Tuesday." I felt my stomach clench because Tuesday was a swap. "You look tired. Late night." And yeah, I was tired. I've been up listening to my upstairs neighbor stomp around like a lunatic. I hated how accurate he stayed, week after week. Not every detail, but enough to make my skin crawl. I tried to shake him. I switched with another associate for a few hours. I took my breaks at odd times. I stopped wearing my name tag when I worked returns, even though management hated that. My manager wrote me up and told me to stay professional. I told her I was being careful. She told me, "He's just a customer." The 4th time, he slid a receipt across the counter with nothing attached. No item, just an old slip with my register number circled, and under it in pen, "She doesn't know what's good for her." My hands went cold. I told him we couldn't process a return without the merchandise. Policy. Item in hand. Barcode. He smiled like I'd finally said the right password. "Not yet," he said. I stared at him, waiting for the punchline. He didn't give one. He lifted his finger and pointed at the CCTV dome above us. Then he said, calm as a weather report, "But they keep everything." I went straight into the little office behind the desk and shut the door. I didn't cry. I just stood there breathing like I'd run. My coworker knocked and asked what happened. I shoved the receipt in her face. Her expression dropped. She went pale in a way that made me feel less crazy. We took it to my manager. She read it and did the whole "that's inappropriate" face, then slid into corporate mode. Incident report. We can't trespass him for being weird. I argued. I didn't keep it cute. I said, "He's writing about me." She said, "He didn't threaten you." I asked what counted as a threat now. She told me to lower my voice because there were customers nearby. That sentence lit something in me. Like my safety had to stay quiet so the store could keep sounding friendly. Security got involved because Tony, one of the guards, actually looked at people instead of his phone. He pulled me into their cramped office with the monitor wall and asked if the guy was back again. I said yes, and I asked to see the footage. Tony hesitated, like he'd get in trouble for showing me. Then he swiveled the screen anyway because he saw my hands shaking. He rolled back the cameras. On screen, I was doing my job, scanning, tapping, bagging, handing back cash. The guy stood there smiling. Normal, if you didn't know. Then Tony fast-forwarded and my throat tightened. After the return, the guy drifted toward the security office window like he'd done it before. He pulled out his phone and held it up toward the glass. Not to text, not to call. He filmed the monitors. Tony zoomed in. On the guy's phone, I saw me. From above. From the dome. Tony switched dates. Same thing. Different day, different shirt on me, same lane, same camera view on his phone. He wasn't just watching me in real time. He was collecting clips. He filmed the monitor replay over and over like he was building his own library. Tony muttered, "What the fuck?" and I wanted to hug him for saying it out loud. Then we found the part that made my teeth ache. Days I wasn't scheduled, he still came in. He stood near customer service and waited for a lead to turn around. He angled his body to see the schedule board behind the counter. He didn't touch anything. He just read. He absorbed it. He left. I asked for him to be trespassed. Tony said he'd push it up the chain, but loss prevention had to approve, management had to document, and corporate had to review. All those words that mean time. The guy had time. I didn't. The next day, I brought the receipt and Tony's notes back to management and got the same dead answers. My manager said, "Don't engage him," like I could turn invisible at a service desk. I told her I couldn't not engage when my job was literally engaging. She said if he came in again, I should swap lanes. I said, "He follows the lane." She stared at her computer and asked if I wanted to take an unpaid day off to reset. That pissed me off more than the guy did. The next week, I watched the doors like a paranoid idiot. I told my lead I wasn't handling him anymore. She sighed like I was asking for a smoke break. We argued right there behind the counter, not loud but sharp. I said, "He's filming the monitors." She said, "He hasn't done anything." I said, "He's doing it every week." She said, "Then stop making eye contact." Like that was a fix. He walked in anyway. One small item. Same empty hands. Same patient face. He didn't go to the other lanes. He drifted to mine like the floor pulled him. When my lead stepped in to take him, he didn't complain. He just watched her hands on the register, like he was learning the system, like he was figuring out which buttons made people move. He glanced at me over her shoulder, and I felt it like a finger under my chin. Not touching, claiming. After that, I started changing how I existed at work. He parked on the lights. I walked out with coworkers. I kept my phone in my hand with 911 ready. I stopped going to the back hallway alone. I asked Tony to pace the front more. I caught heat for being dramatic. My manager told me if front end was too much, I could transfer departments. That felt like the store telling me, in plain language, that the easiest solution was to remove me, not him. The sick part is he never did the obvious things. He never grabbed me. He never followed me to my car. He never raised his voice. He stayed calm and polite, and that made everyone else lazy. Like danger only counts if it shouts. One night, I saw him by the security office window again. Phone up, filming the monitors like it was a tourist attraction. Something in me snapped. I stepped around the counter and got close enough that he had a look at my face, not my uniform. I told him to stop. My voice shook anyway. He didn't flinch. He just lowered the phone a little, like he was being considerate, and said, "You're getting better at noticing. No apology. No denial. Just that." But my fear was a game, and I'd leveled up. I went back behind the counter, and my lead hissed at me for confronting a customer. We fought again. I told her to write me up if she wanted, because I was done pretending this was normal. She told me I was making the store look bad. I told her the store was letting a guy build a scrapbook of me and calling it a customer issue. We filed more reports. We saved screenshots. We wrote dates and times. We built a paper trail like paper could tackle someone in the parking lot. Tony told me the cameras only stored so much unless corporate pulled it. I remember the guy pointing at the dome and saying they keep everything. He was wrong on the technical part, but he was right in the way that mattered. The store kept me in place, kept me on schedule, kept me at that counter, kept me predictable. I started thinking about what he meant by return. He wasn't returning socks. He was returning boundaries. He kept bringing small, harmless items so he could stand in front of me and test what the system would allow. He'd push a little, watch the response, then come back next week and push again. He waited for the day my manager got tired, or a new lead took over, or I slipped up, or the store decided the easiest way to solve the problem was to move me, cut my hours, change my shifts. He hasn't touched me. He hasn't followed me to my car, but he keeps coming back, trying to swap my boundaries like a broken blender, waiting for the day the store says yes to a return I didn't agree to. I knew the guy from the stairwell wanted more than a smoke the first time he blocked my way down. Old building, no elevator, 4 floors of echo. He always happened to step out when I hit the second landing after work. Same lighter flick, same long day, bullshit. I brushed past, keys between my fingers like every girl does. He watched my hand like he liked imagining what I'd do if he pushed me far enough. At first I told myself he was just lonely. Then he started testing me. One day he didn't move his foot off the step, just stared, forcing me to turn sideways and squeeze by. His jacket dragged on my hip. I snapped and told him to move. He didn't get offended. He smiled like I'd finally given him something to keep. Next day he acted polite again, like I'd imagined it, like I was the bitch for reacting. Then my laundry started coming back wrong. Underwear folded on top, not buried. One shirt I never washed because I sleep in it showed up in the basket, still warm. I stood in the basement holding it between two fingers, trying to force my brain into a harmless explanation. Maybe I tossed it in half asleep. Maybe I mixed baskets. But I don't do that. I am boring. I am consistent. I count quarters. I set timers. I know what's mine. So I started doing little tests because I didn't have proof, just that sick feeling. I turned bras inside out. They came back right side out. Ik noted panties on the jeans. They came back neatly folded. I put a strip of tape across the basket lid, so it would tear if somebody lifted it. The next day, the tape was ripped clean and restuck crooked, like someone tried to put it back and got impatient. I checked the basement door. It never latched all the way. You could shove it and it would pop open. So I stopped leaving my stuff down there. I started taking my bag to work, hauling my laundry in a tote like it was contraband. I stopped setting my basket on the folding table while I fished for quarters. I stopped turning my back on the machines. It made my shoulders ache and made me look insane, but at least nobody got easy access to my clothes. For a week, the laundry thing eased up, or maybe I just took away his favorite part. Then he switched back to the stairs and got bolder. He'd pop out earlier, like he'd been listening for my steps from behind his door. He'd block the landing and make me take the narrow side near the wall. He'd talk low, so I had to lean away to hear him. Then he'd lean closer anyway. One night, I tried to push past, and he caught my wrist with two fingers, not a grab, just a touch, like he wanted to see if I'd let him. I yanked free and told him not to touch me. He shrugged like I'd accused him of stealing a pen. Next time he saw me, he stared at my tote and said, "You're getting paranoid." Goo. I hadn't told anyone. Not my friend, not my mom, not the landlord. I hadn't even said it out loud in my own apartment because I didn't want the walls to hear it. My stomach dropped so hard I tasted metal. He grinned like he'd proven something. I tried to do the responsible thing anyway, because that's what you do before you admit you're on your own. I told the landlord the basement door didn't latch. He nodded without looking up from his phone and started talking about tenants leaving it open like a busted latch was a personality flaw. I asked the super to change the stairwell bulb on 3 because it flickered and left dark patches. He told me the building had bigger issues than a light and I should stop worrying. I argued, louder than I meant to. He got pissed like my fear was an inconvenience and said if I didn't like it, I could move. I told him he could do his job instead. He walked away muttering, and the light kept flickering. I tried to recruit neighbors without sounding nuts. The woman across the hall acted like I was asking for money and said everyone here was fine if you mind your business. A guy on 2 told me I should get a boyfriend if I was scared. I told him to go fuck himself, and he slammed his door so hard the frame rattled. An older lady on 3, the one who always smelled like bleach, didn't argue. She just stared at my face like she was reading bruises that weren't there yet and told me to keep my phone in my hand in the hallway and not to wear headphones. No comfort, just survival tips. The stairwell guy kept showing up anyway. Sometimes he'd follow me up one flight, not close enough to touch, just close enough that I could hear him breathing. If I sped up, he sped up. If I slowed down to listen, he'd slow too. He never had groceries, never had trash, never had a reason. Just him, that lighter in the narrow space. I started timing my arrivals. I started waiting on the sidewalk until I heard other people in the lobby. I started gripping my pepper spray so hard my thumb cramped. None of it fixed the fact that the stairwell belonged to whoever was willing to make it ugly. The night it snapped, the hall light on 3 blew out completely. Not flickering, out. I hit that landing, and the stairwell went black in that specific way old buildings go black, where the darkness feels thick like it has weight. My phone screen lit my thumb and nothing else. I heard him behind me, faster than usual, like he'd been waiting 1 floor down and decided this was the moment. Hand closed on my ponytail, yanked me backwards into the corner hard enough to pop my jaw. My head cracked the wall and stars flashed. He slammed my head once, then again, and my ears rang so loud I couldn't hear my own breath. He hissed in my ear about how noisy I was, how thin the walls were, how nobody ever helped. Like he'd been listening to my life through plaster and hated what he heard. Like the building belonged to him, and I was the thing that kept messing up the quiet. His hand clamped over my mouth. I couldn't scream. I couldn't bite. I could smell cigarette tar and sweat on his skin. My brain went cold and fast. I didn't think about rules or fairness or what's right. I thought, don't let him drag you somewhere quieter. I didn't fight fair. I kicked straight back, heel into his knee, and felt it buckle. He grunted, and his grip loosened just enough. I twisted, jammed my elbow back, and when his other hand grabbed for my face again, I drove my house key into the soft part of his palm as hard as I could. Not a little poke. I shoved like I wanted it to reach bone. He screamed, high and ugly, and ripped his hand away. Blood slicked my fingers. I tore free and ran like my feet didn't belong to me. I bolted downstairs, banging on doors, screaming fire, murder, anything. People yelled back through it like I was a nuisance. One door cracked open and slammed shut. Another neighbor shouted for me to shut the fuck up. I kept pounding anyway because the stairwell kept echoing behind me and I didn't want to hear his footsteps start again. I hit the lobby and burst outside into the cold air, shaking so bad I almost dropped my phone. I stood under the streetlight and kept yelling until my throat burned because silence felt like a trap closing. He limped down a minute later, clutching his palm, face twisted between rage and panic. He tried to talk over me, tried to make it sound like a misunderstanding, like I'd attacked him for no reason. Even then, he couldn't stop performing. He kept looking at the building like he expected the walls to side with him, like they'd done before. The cops came quick because someone finally decided it was their problem. One neighbor tried to tell them I was dramatic and always complaining. I snapped at him so hard my voice cracked and I saw him flinch. I showed the cop my swollen jaw, the hair ripped out near my scalp, the smear of blood on my wrist. The cop's eyes went flat and professional after that. They went into the stairwell and came back with the guy hunched over, a dish towel already wrapped around his palm like somebody had tried to stop the bleeding and failed. Cops dragged him out with a dish towel wrapped around his bleeding palm. He fought the cuffs, not hard, just enough to be a problem. Just enough to say he still had control. He kept trying to stare me down like I'd still flinch. I didn't. I stood there trembling and watched them take him, because if I looked away, it felt like he'd come right back up the stairs. After they left, I went up to grab my phone from the landing. The hallway smelled like old dust and cheap smoke. My screen was cracked. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. On my door, around the lock, I saw fresh scratches, thin little half moons like someone had tested my keyhole and backed off. That hit me worse than the bruise on my jaw. It meant the laundry wasn't an accident. It meant he'd been practicing. It meant he'd been close before, and I just hadn't noticed because I wanted so badly to believe I was overreacting. I didn't sleep for days. I moved my laundry to a friend's place. I carried my keys like a weapon until my palm bruised. The landlord replaced the bulb on 3 the next morning, like light alone rewinds time, like that was the big fix after everything. To the neighbor who thought my stairwell was his hunting ground, rock quietly. Let's not meet. I used to laugh at the memes my coworker dropped in our group chat while he was out killing someone. We worked nights at a warehouse, and the Discord server was where we dumped everything we couldn't say under the cameras. Photos of broken pallets, scanners throwing errors, kill me jokes, dumb filters, quick rage. He ran that chat, always first to reply, always posting, always pushing for reactions like they were oxygen. If the channel slowed down, he'd jab it with another meme or a cursed selfie. In person, he did the same thing, talking over people, clowning when supervisors walked by, acting like rules didn't apply to him. I didn't call him a friend, but I still laugh because nights turn your brain into sludge and you'll take any distraction you can get. One shift he called in sick. No big deal. People called out constantly and nobody asked questions because we all wanted the same mercy. The supervisor just swore and redistributed the load like we were spare parts. I got bounced into the worst section and I started the night already pissed off, already snappy. In the server, we hit him with the usual stuff, lucky bastard, puke emojis, toilet gifs, then went back to work. Around midnight, he started spamming the chat anyway. Selfies on his couch with timestamp filters. A video of his TV with that day's news on. A close-up of his face like he wanted proof he existed. He typed that his stomach was wrecked. He posted a bottle of Pepto. He kept saying he couldn't move. It was annoying in a petty way, like he was still trying to be the center of attention while the rest of us ate shit. One guy in the server told him to stop flexing his day off. Another co-worker told him to shut up and sleep. He fired back with a sticker of some cartoon doubled over, then another. It turned into that tense, joking people do when they're actually mad. Nobody wanted to be the sensitive one, so we hid behind laughs and reactions. I did too. The shift stayed ugly. Lines backed up. Pallets collapsed. A new hire dropped a whole stack, and the supervisor lit him up like it was personal. I caught myself getting pissed at everyone for moving slow, then felt gross for it. That's what nights do. They make you mean. Every time my phone buzzed with another one of his sick updates, I rolled my eyes, scanned faster, tried to outrun the irritation. At break, I sat on an upside-down tote and scrolled the chat. Same couch angle, same timestamp stickers, same fake casual tone. Nothing about it screamed danger. It just screamed attention. I went home at sunrise, ate something, passed out hard, woke up to a few more notifications, ignored them, and dragged myself back the next night. That's when I pulled into the lot and saw cruisers outside our building. Multiple, not a traffic stop. Real police presence, quiet and heavy, like they already decided what the day was. People stood in clusters by the entrance, pretending they were talking about work while their eyes stayed glued to the doors. Inside, 2 cops were talking to our manager. My manager looked like he'd swallowed glass and was trying not to bleed on the floor. He kept waving people through, telling us to badge in and keep moving like he could hustle the whole thing into disappearing. Then my co-worker's car rolled in. Same car, same crooked parking, like he was coming clock in and complain like always. He stepped out and looked at the cops with this confused half-smile, like he thought it was about unpaid tickets or some dumb bar fight. The cops walked straight at him, grabbed his arms, turned him, pushed him against the car. Metal clacked. His head hit the roof with a hard thunk that cut through all the warehouse noise. He started talking fast, doing that half laugh he always did when he thought words could smooth everything over. It didn't work. They cuffed him and shoved him in the back seat. As the door shut, he looked over at us watching and his face went flat, like the performance switched off. Right after that, the whole building got loud in the worst way. People demanded answers. The supervisor told everyone to get back to work. Somebody snapped, "Work? Are you fucking kidding?" Our manager dragged us into a quick meeting and went straight into damage control. Don't talk to anyone. Don't post anything. If reporters ask, say nothing. That set people off. One woman snapped that a girl was probably dead and he was worried about corporate. Another guy told the manager to go fuck himself and got threatened with being sent home. They argued inches from each other, red-faced, hands clenched, like the warehouse floor was the only place they could put the fear. The details leaked in pieces anyway. Girl from the next town, strangled in her apartment somewhere, between 11 and 1. Neighbor's camera caught his car. Phone records put him near her place. Those weren't vague rumors. Those were sharp facts that stuck. In the break room, people argued like arguing could change what happened. One guy insisted it was a setup, that cops always grab the weird one first. Another guy said he always knew something was off, like he wanted credit for being suspicious after the fact. Someone else kept repeating, but he was in chat, like the chat was a locked door and reality couldn't get through it. I kept hearing the midnight timestamps in my head. I kept seeing his couch selfies. I kept thinking about the time window and how neat his posts had been. When I got home, I opened Discord and scrolled back through the night he called out. I told myself I was just curious. That was a lie. I needed to know if I'd missed something obvious. I stared at his live selfies and started catching little mismatches. His facial hair didn't match what he'd had at work that week. The poster behind him looked like the old one he'd had months ago, not the newer one he'd shown off. In one shot, the blanket on the couch was different. In another, the light looked like daytime through blinds, not midnight. I zoomed in until pixels turned into blocks. I compared shots like a lunatic. My stomach kept tightening because the more I looked, the more it stopped being a feeling and started being a pattern. Then I remembered the bot. We had a scheduling bot in the server because we were bored and lazy. Reminders, auto-replies, preloaded memes for birthdays. He'd messed with it before and bragged about it like he was some kind of hacker for learning a few commands. And it hit me. Those posts didn't have to be live. He could have queued them earlier and let the bot drip them into the chat while he was somewhere else. Old photos, old videos, time drops, a little fake version of him on a couch, sick, present, while his real body drove out to that apartment. I scrolled through the chat again, and all I saw was us feeding it, reacting, joking, telling him to drink water, telling him to stop being dramatic. I saw my own laughing emoji sitting there like a stain. The worst part wasn't that it was clever. The worst part was how calm it was. Like he planned it the way we plan a shift. Set it up, run it, clock out. I kept digging because my brain wouldn't let go. I clicked his profile and scrolled older media until I found the same couch selfie from months back, same angle, same stupid filter, and my throat went dry. It wasn't even subtle once you saw it. He'd recycled his own history and tried to pass it as that night. I checked the timestamps again, and they landed right inside the window the news was talking about. At work the next day, a couple of us argued about it by the lockers. One guy said I was reaching, that I wanted the story to be cinematic. I snapped back that he could zoom in and look with his own damn eyes. Another coworker jumped in and said, real quiet, that the cops wouldn't drag him out like that without something solid. Then someone else accused me of being his buddy because I'd laughed in the chat and I almost swung on him. It wasn't guilt that made me mad. It was the way people wanted a villain they could touch, and I was standing right there. The server started rotting after that. People deleted messages like they were wiping fingerprints. The admin locked channels. A few coworkers left entirely, like leaving would make them clean. Others stayed and lurked, like they couldn't stop staring at the wreck. Fights kept breaking out at work over stupid things because nobody could say what they were really feeling. Someone accused another person of talking to reporters. Someone else called them a liar. Supervisors threatened write-ups and got told to shove it. Everybody was exhausted and angry and scared, and management kept acting like productivity would bleach it away. A reporter showed up in the lot one afternoon, and our manager chased him off like that was the real danger. I caught myself wondering if my coworker had practiced on us too, if we'd been his warm-up audience, his cover, his little shield made out of memes. I still have access to that server. His last message is a sticker complaining about cramps. Under it, a cop timestamp that says she was already dead.